Race Spot TV Friday Prime Time has another edition. This time it comes at you from the Laguna Seca racetrack. I'll get my words in the right order at some point, believe me. IMSA Sportscar Championship round number 7 at Laguna Seca heads onto your screens now as we wait for some absolutely fantastic multi-class racing action. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by Ryan Walker for this one. Nolan Rempel unfortunately cannot join us due to some technical problems. The power out is out in his entire neighborhood, so that's probably the worst problem that you can imagine for this sort of thing. But hello everyone and welcome as we get the track information up there. It's a pretty cool day for California here, just 21 degrees on the circuit, partly cloudy, winds are very, very calm as well. As Ryan, we're into round number 7 of this official IMSA championship now. Basically past the halfway point. Has the series impressed you so far, or do you think we're going to see even better things to come?
It's impressed me so far for sure, but I think there's definitely more great racing to come as we head towards the end of the season. And I think here at Laguna Seca this evening, I think we should be in for an interesting race, especially where you've got corners like the corkscrew and the Andretti hairpin in turn 1. And also we've got all 3 classes on track at the same time, so that's going to be absolutely interesting but fantastic to watch.
Yep, it absolutely will be. We have qualifying out there for the moment, and we'll just pull up those times for you in just a couple of moments just to get your bearings about where each driver is. Of course, we actually have a good couple of new names here in this particular session. Maybe some new names that can surprise us in this one, as Lucas Kreistek is currently the leader in terms of your LMP2 qualifying, but GTE qualifying is also looking close as well. GTLM, as we would say here in IMSA.
Yeah, absolutely. The times in GTLM are close at the moment, and there's not really any names I recognise, but the names that we see on the chat this evening, they might get a chance to shine on the broadcast. And we've still got a couple of names that we recognise from previous broadcasts or other series that Race Sports broadcast in the past. You've got Casper DeCourt, who's a pretty known name on iRacing, especially in the Ivor League, Endurance League, what's Race Sports broadcast.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of broadcasting one of those previous rounds, filling in for Sumo Aurora. Here's Jack Thompson, though, on one of his qualifying laps. Currently P2 in his GTD class. Let's have a little ride on board with the Audi then as it heads its way through the final couple of corners of this American racetrack. Coming up towards the final corner now. Hard on the brakes here in the Audi. Try and guide that car into the apex. Try and get early on the throttle as possible. Don't push too wide though, because you can very easily get your lap invalidated if you run too wide there. A 1:21.208 for Jack Thompson is not good enough to improve up into first place. Good enough to improve on his previous best though, but not good enough to get pole position.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. With the final couple of corners, you've got to get them right, because you can try and make a move into the final corner, but as we look at Antonin Titus, who was out on track last week at Interlagos and had a pretty decent race, coming across the line now to do a 1:22.2, so that puts him into position number 3.
Yeah, lap pulled out of the bag there for Antonin Titus. We've still got a handful of drivers that have not set themselves qualifying times just yet. This is one of them, Octavio Arujo Pisco in the Corvette. The Corvette, of course, after the recent balance performance changes that iRacing has put in for these GTE, GTLM cars, the Corvette looking a little bit stronger than where it was once at. And it looks like we've got quite a complement of them here today. As Pisco running a little bit too wide there, coming through the penultimate corner. I have to wonder if you've gotten an instant point for that, and this lap is going to be invalid. Not going to be the best plan, though, because an invalid lap at this point will mean that he for sure starts at the very back of the grid. Was it an invalid lap, I believe? Well, it wasn't, actually. So just getting away with the skin of his teeth up into P11 to start in the GTLM class.
Absolutely, and that's another thing with Laguna Seca as well that these drivers will have to be wary of, is the off tracks. And if especially around this track, if you go too wide and you catch too much of the gravel, you can possibly lose the car and end up in the wall. So yeah, that's definitely something these drivers will need to keep in mind as we look at one of the GTD Audis coming into the final corner.
Yeah, he's not going to make it though. 4 seconds left remaining. As he exits the final corner, he'll wiggle the car in frustration as he doesn't quite get to the line. But that is going to be the end of the qualifying session here. We have our starting grid in place then for this round of Raceport TV Friday primetime. Let's take a look at it now, and let's take a look at the LMP2 starting order, as long as our graphics decide to cooperate with us. There we go. Sometimes it takes a moment, but Lucas Kreistek gets himself pole position here in this one with Martin Ensman on that front row as well. Julian Mitt in P3 with Nick Thyssen starting in the 4th spot. Adam Ixon in P5, Mikael Kutab in P6, Daniel Handover and Casey Kerwin will line up P7 and P8 respectively. Cheyenne Nalam there in P9, Andrew Pike P10, Casper Core in P11, Thibaut Wogny in P12, Chris Roberts starts P13, and Josh Brain starts in 14th here today. Looking at your GTLM field then, Ivo Rappant starts in pole position with Alet van der Waal in P2. P3 goes to Dominikas Jovasaya there. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher some of these pronunciations. He starts in P3. You got Sion Matas there in P4. P5 will be Shane Kaiko. You've got Taj Edwards in P6. P7 will go to Daniel Setili. You've got Till Nordman in P8 today in the GTLM class. Maximilian Prouvost, Kevin Bellins, Octavio Pisco, Kevin Onk in bringing things down to P12, and then you have the final qualifier in GTLM. In fact, they didn't even set a qualifying time. They're right at the very back, Fidel Fernandez. In GTD, it looks a little bit like this. Francesco Arata will start in pole position with Jack Thompson in P2. Antonin Titus starts in P3 with Corey Murphy in that 4th spot outside of that second row. Looking further back, you got P5, Thomas Torden and Marius Braun, bringing things down to P6. Fabio Baracco in P7, Matt Peterson in P8, and then you'll another couple of cars down, Joao Fonesca, Julian Lukes, George Reed Nutley, and Silvio Koranjak, bringing things down to P12. And then you have your final qualifier here, David Kraja, number 40, starts at the very back of the grid here today. So it's a full pace lap here at the Laguna Seca. Of course, an old track on the iRacing service, so you get to see these full pace laps in effect. Just gives these drivers a little bit of a chance to get a little bit more heat and pressure into those tires before we take the race start here today. But it does allow maybe the tensions to rise a little bit more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, some keys to the race as well, especially around Laguna Seca. Keys to the race is going to be patience and just being careful, especially in the first couple of laps with the cold tyres as well, but also patience in traffic. Some of these prototype drivers are going to have to be very careful and not do anything too silly, especially with this some of the sections of the track being tight. But as we come onto the exit of the corkscrew and downhill into the final few corners, we are just about to get underway and just waiting for the pace car to pull off.
We absolutely are. In just a couple of moments' time, you'll see that Porsche 911 Cup safety car pull down on towards pit lane 17 and the 21 starting on the very front row for this one, as we'll go green flag racing for round number 7 of the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship here on iRacing. We're off and away at Laguna Seca, and will we see a challenge for P1 coming down into the Andretti hairpin for the first time? We will not. So Kreistek still leads from Ensman, from Mert, as they'll battle actually side by side for second place here, as Mert will try and battle it out with Ensman coming through the first couple of corners. GTLM, here's their race start, as the leader's been able to get away well, and it's a big old titanic battle for P2 here between Van der Waal and Jovaiza. as Joviza's just about been able to get his way through in that instance. Then we look back to your GTD class as they're going side for side through the race leads on the corner before they even get to the green flag. That's a bit of a weird one, but Orata leads this race in GTDs from Titus, from Thompson in that order, but there might be more challenges coming down in towards the turn one for the first time. The Mercedes looking to the inside on your race leader, but not going to be able to get anything done there. But it seems like it's been a relatively clean start for pretty much everyone out there. But look at this big gaggle in the big pack of the LMP2s.
Yeah, the battle in the LMP2 starting to battle already. As someone's trying to make a move into the final corner, but yeah, just manages to stay alongside. But yeah, so far so reasonably good. There's not been any major issues. A slight bit of contact in the GTLM and GTD classes, but is Adam J? I probably butchered that, but anyway, you know what I mean. Trying to make a move up the inside into turn one.
Yeah, and he's just about being able to make that work. Casper Takor and Nick Thyssen fighting side by side, coming through the first couple of corners. Nick Thyssen trying to hold on that inside, and he's still alongside Casper Takor here coming down into the next, but Casper Takor will be able to stretch his legs a little bit and be able to get ahead. So we've had no absolutely major dramas apart from, I believe, this driver who's currently down on towards pit lane. Kevin Bellens has seemed to have had a problem early on here. We'll try to see if we can get a replay of exactly what has happened to him. He's actually coming down the pit lane there, so maybe he was... Oh, he's got a massive amount of damage, it seems. That car starting to crab a little bit. You can see on the rear end, the alignment isn't quite there for Bellens, and he just decides to bring that car down towards pit lane. And I think this was damage gotten early as well.
Yeah, just watching the replay, but it looks like he might have just got tagged by someone. Yeah, might have just got some slight suspension damage, what's knocked the rear toe out of place. But yeah, looking back up at the LMP2 class as well at the moment, it was still in the lead. It's the leader is Julian Miller.
Yeah, no, Christek's lost the race lead because he was leading coming down in towards turn number one and for the majority of that first lap. So it seems like Julian Meert has been able to get himself ahead here, and by quite a margin, sitting in about 1.4 seconds is his race lead at the moment, and they're already coming up on bits of GTD traffic here. So it's very quick that they've come up on traffic here. That's just the amount of separation they were able to get on the race start that has caused this traffic to happen quite early. Plus, there's been a couple of instances in GTDs.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, Laguna Seca, it might look like a long track, but it's kind of like Road Atlanta in a way. It's kind of a short track at the same time as the LMP2 leader gets around one of the GTD cars into the final corner, and without any issues, and the second place Lucas Krytek gets held up ever so slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. So LMP2 all have to deal with GT traffic quite soon into this race. We're not even 5 minutes into this one, barely 5 minutes into this one, and they're already having to deal with some GTD traffic. The closest battle here in the fastest class, you got Martin Ensman versus Casey Kerwin here. Casey Kerwin, 4th spot for the moment. He got so close, but yet so far at the Charlotte Roval, and so it looks like Ensman's been impeded by a GTD Mercedes, and Casey Kerwin's been able to work his way down the inside, and that simply does it there for the American. Going to get held up by the MG Mercedes coming through the kick. Ow, has to lift out of things so slightly, and they almost came together. Martin Ensman got a bit of a better run through the corner there. He might be able to challenge up in towards the corkscrew, but he's just going to stay in line for now.
Yeah, he decided not to try and make a move into the corkscrew, which is a bit risky. But Casey Kerwin, I was impressed with that move. He took the opportunity, and that was a very opportunistic move that he made and managed to pull it off, so fair play to him. But he gets held up again by a GTD car into the final corner. And
whoa,
yeah.
Big crash! Big crash! Krytek's up and over! Your driver that started pole position has barrel rolled into the sand trap out of the final corner. We'll have to take another look at that one. It looks like it was an instant with traffic. Let's watch this one run through. Lots of GTD traffic very early on in this race. Krytek heads his way down the inside there, and the door's shut. The Audi Color Cross perhaps not expecting Crytek to go so deep to the inside there. He was expecting one LMP2 car to go down the inside, not the second.
Yeah, that was just unfortunate. Crytek couldn't really do anything. I guess he probably thought that the GTD car was going to leave the gap open for him to get through, but that final corner, it's only really a one-line corner when it comes to lapping GT traffic. So kind of it was just a bit opportunistic there.
Yeah, let's take a look at the view of KCK1 because he had it all happen ahead of him. He almost has his own incident with a GTD car. You can see there's the tag around. Great avoiding action. Good heads-up driving there for K1 to avoid that one and just drive it through the gravel trap.
Yeah, that was good avoidance by him, and luckily he managed not to get tagged by that GTD car. It got spun round, but Kerwin, you know, he's a really quick driver, not just in NASCAR but on the roadside as well. He's quick, so yes, he honestly didn't lose too much time or that many positions by the looks of it.
A couple of heavily damaged Lara LMP2s head their way on towards pit lane. Isaacson, Ensman down in with very heavy front end damage there on both of those cars. So you can see what carnage it's caused for those LMP2s. Let's give the other classes a little bit of love. The front of the other classes a little bit of love here. As Antonin Tyre sitting in second place at the moment, but he's being hotly contested for that position by Jack Thompson, who currently sits a couple of tenths of a second behind him.
Yep, absolutely, and GTD seems to be the class that's had a little bit of drama happening, but not as much as up at the front in the other classes. But yeah, at the moment, it's Francisco's doing a good job leading with Antonin closely behind. He's not as close, but he's keeping him in sight.
Absolutely, but this gap just ebbs and flows due to the LMP2 traffic continuing to knock on the door and force their way through. So, I mean, at least the front of the GTD field is being a little bit, this portion of the lapping procedure is being a little bit calmer than the initial portion that we saw at the very start of this race. So those LMP2 drivers looking to just get their way through, although, 3 wide. Seriously? You're going to do it like that? Daniel Handover, Cheyenne Najam, basically becoming the bread of a GTD sandwich.
Yeah, I was watching that and I had to take a big deep breath because I thought I was going to end up in disaster, but holy moly.
Deep breaths, folks. Deep breaths. As we'll continue on with this one, and we'll have a look at the GTLMs because they've been pretty quiet throughout this race. I think they strung out a little bit earlier than some of the other classes, but the race lead still within a second here between Ivo Rappant and Alex van der Waal, and that one looking to close in just a little bit more. So definitely keep an eye on this battle because it might be a thing for the future, especially once the pit stop phase comes through, and of course various lapping procedures from the LMP2s happen as well, might affect this gap.
Yep, absolutely. As they come through the corkscrew now, and Ali, it's just keeping them in sight, and like you say, when it comes to the P2 cars coming up to lap the GTLM cars, I think it could be a factor in this league battle. And but at the moment, Evo just seems to be maintaining that gap by about 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, it is sitting around there for the moment. But early on, you don't have to worry too much about such things. You can look to go forward a little bit later on in the race, just looking to try and set yourself into a little bit of a rhythm at the moment. This is still a very, very short race when it comes to we have a spinner coming out of the final corner. That's Taj Edwards. That seems to have had a problem with the final corner there. Trying to battle side by side with a Porsche, and 2 into 1 doesn't go towards the apex, and Taj Edwards has been the driver that's come off the worst there. I wonder if we can cycle things a little bit further back to see who that BMW, who that Porsche was, excuse me. I'm trying to spot the number 22, so that would have been Till Nordman. Looking his way down the inside there, and I have to wonder if we can get a little bit of a better view of that one, because that view is not the best one to try and judge any fault for this incident, but just watch this one through, Ryan, and just giving you your verdict. Your verdict.
Yeah, just watching. It looks like Till gets a run. He kind of he shows his nose up the inside, and he looks to be a bit hesitant. But yeah, I would slightly have to put the blame on the Till for that one. I don't like playing the blame game, but I think he was just maybe just a bit too far back to get alongside.
Yeah, but we've seen a good couple of lunges here in this in this race. It's probably fair to say. But look at this, the battle for the overall race lead has really come down now. Julian Miert, after taking the race lead early on in the race, now has Casey Kirwan all over his tail. Kirwan, with some sweet wreck avoidance on the first lap of the race, has been able to gain a handful of spots here and a huge amount of time, and a little bit of a mistake there from Julian Miert means this gap has come down even further, and if he has trouble with this GTLM Porsche now, he has to have to head his way down the inside. Oh, it's going to get close between those two, and Miert has to lift out of it. This gives the run to Casey Kirwan coming down into the left, but he can't do anything with it. The flashing of the lights there from the GTLM showed that they weren't happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Miert just moved over on the GTLM Porsche just ever so slightly, so I think that's why the GTLM Porsche driver was slightly unhappy, judging by the flashing lights. And Casey Kirwan, considering he lost a little bit of time after having to avoid a few cars in the final corner a few laps ago, he's managed to, like you say, Conrad, he's closed this gap down to Julian Miert in front of him. And again, they've got another GTLM Porsche in front of them, so this is going to be it's going to be interesting to see what happens as the GTLM Porsche gets out of the way ever so slightly. Miert gets through, Kirwan just about to get through, yeah, and he gets through and doesn't lose too much time as he gets to run down the home straight.
Running on the roof cam of Casey Kirwan. Is he going to look to make the move down in towards turn number 1 this time? Looks towards the outside for the Mario Andretti hairpin, but you really need to be brave if you're going to go along the outside there. Try to get a cut back, get the speed off the corner, look into the inside now for the right, and just has the space to work with, but not the commitment just yet. But you can see Casey Kirwan is very eager to get up into the race lead at this point, and Miert is still having to deal with the bunch of traffic. It squeezes Kirwan almost into the Porsche there as they climb up the hill. Kirwan around the outside. Surely they're not going to go side by side through the kink. That's going to be an absolute death trap. So Kirwan will duck back in line, see if he can use any of this traffic to his advantage to get up into the overall race lead. And while they're fighting, Casper Decor has said that he wants to be a part of this battle. Now it's a 3-car chain for the race lead.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up as well. Casper Decor just came from nowhere and closed his gap down to the top 2 in front of him. And yeah, Casper Decor, I think at the moment, if I was him, I would just be sitting there waiting to see what happens. And just, as the Kirwan has a slight bit of contact.
They do make contact through the final turn, and now Miert all the way to the pit wall to try and cover off any sort of moves from those drivers behind. The cones scatter on the way in towards turn 1, and they all stay line astern here, but Casper Decor, now in second place, has been able to rob that one away from Casey Kirwan, as it seems like Miert is taking a cone along for the ride.
Yeah, absolutely, and Casper Decor, Casper Decor has a slight bit of contact possibly, but Miert is the head down to his left-hander now, and Casper Decor trying to go for the move. Can he get it done? He's up the side, he gets it. Oh, fantastic move.
Oh, that is an absolutely brilliant move for the race lead. Now Casey Kirwan down the inside at the kink, and he's wrestled that one away. So 2 corners, 2 positions lost there for Julian Miert. That is not how you want things to happen when you're looking oh so good in terms of the track position, and he might have more problems with traffic now. So Julian Miert's day goes from bad to worse, but let's just recap this battle.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy what was going on, and yeah, Casper Decor, he gets a run on Miert, and he throws his nose up the inside. I wasn't sure if he was going to make the move, manages to keep up the inside and get a great run in the exit.
Yeah, and this commitment here to go 2 wide coming through the kink there, and both drivers giving each other racing room as well. It's absolutely fantastic to see as we will return back to the live pictures, because this battle certainly isn't done just yet, because Kirwan is keeping up with Casper Decor now. It's a 2-horse race for the very front of the field. Kirwan down the inside of the Audi. It's so easy for the Audi to cut across there, but room was given, and Kerwin lived to fight another day.
Absolutely. Kerwin's lost a little bit of time to court, but I think he'll close that back up in no time as the court comes through the kink now, and he's got a GTLM Porsche in front of him. Can he get by before the court's through? Yep, he gets by. Yeah, again, great lap. Great timing of the lapping GT cars by the court. He's not doing anything too risky or too silly. He's just doing it safely when he can.
That's so important. As well, he's lost a little bit of time to the race lead here because of all this traffic, but that could so easily swing back in his favor if Casper de Court catches the wrong end of it. But while this battle is going on, we do have an absolutely fantastic battle that's been brewing in GTLM as well, as Albert van der Waal versus Ivo Rappant. I think that pass has happened already, it seems, while we were busy with the LMP2s, but Rappant certainly not letting van der Waal get away.
Yeah, absolutely not. As the court goes up, it's up the inside of the GTLM Porsche, and yeah, the court loses a bit of time, and Casey Kerwin has closed the gap back up, and yeah, more traffic as well. It's playing a major factor, but yeah, Casey Kerwin is right back on the rear of Casper de Court as they head through the kink.
Yeah, that's taken on board. We had a bit of an oversteer moment coming out of the kink as well, which isn't exactly ideal, but now looking for the braking zone in towards the carousel. Always a tricky braking point because you're coming up over a crest there with the elevation change, so it's quite blind, and the car feels quite light coming into there. Now, for the final couple of corners, that second to last corner is on campus. You can carry a lot of speed into there before you slow things down here for the final corner, but it looks like Casper de Court is having a couple of problems with the traffic, but able to at least stretch his legs on the exit of the corner there. But this is an absolute nightmare for the LMP2s at the moment, with some optimistic moves on the traffic, shall we say.
Yeah, some of these moves, it's making me hold my breath, and as Casper de Court just about moves over in the GTD Mercedes, and that could have ended up in disaster.
Yeah, it could have ended up in an absolutely massive mess, but Casey Kerwin looks to have the run off the corner here, be able to challenge for the race lead. In through the long left. Can he carry the speed around the outside? Casper de Court's coming back at him. They're going to be absolutely neck and neck up towards the kink, and Casper de Court's got himself ahead, keeps himself ahead, and Kerwin has to find another way around.
Yeah, this is fantastic racing between these two guys, and yeah, it just seems to be every time Casey gets a run on the Casper, he can't really do anything just because traffic keeps getting in the way. But again, Casper de Court just manages to pull away slightly, but you know what Casey Kerwin's like, he'll never give up.
Yeah, he's certainly one of those drivers. Gap extending once again to about half a second, but Casey Kerwin's certainly capable of reeling in that gap once again. But Casper de Court has to hope that he gets a little bit of a break from the traffic here. He seems to have had the tougher time when it comes to the traffic between these two drivers, and it looks like he does have some clear track ahead of him that he can try to stretch his legs, but I'm not entirely confident that his clear air pace will be able to stretch the gap.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think watching these guys at the moment and checking both of the average lap time or average pace, they seem to be around about the same pace, so it's a bit difficult for Casper to pull away and build up a gap, and Casey Kerwin is just, I think, if I was Kerwin, I would maybe try pitting early and maybe try and doing an undercut, just try and get some clear air, or try and put some quick laps in to try and jump the court in the pit stops.
Yeah, could potentially be the plan, as of course it is one of the short races of this. It is not the full hour in duration, so maybe a little bit less time for a driver in Casey Kerwin's position, for example, to be able to get these moves done. But with 25 minutes left remaining and a scheduled pit stop remaining, Kerwin, he could potentially just rest back a little and maybe not have this go forward attitude that he's been having over the last couple of laps, trying to go for every gap. He can maybe think about things a little bit more, get it done in the pit stops perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, at the moment they've got some clear track in front of them, so Casey, I think he can just sit back a little bit and just plan what he's going to do, like try and maybe stay out in track and try and get get by Casper by doing that, making a move on track. But Laguna Seca, like I said at the start of the broadcast, it's quite difficult in a way to make a move around here just because of the tight nature of the track, especially this section we're coming up to the corkscrew. You can't really do anything.
No, you can't. But we got a little bit of action in GTDs. Anton and Titus trying to fend off Jack Thompson. It's AMG Mercedes versus Audi here in this one. France versus the UK. Of course, not going to be biased in that one, of course not. But as they climb up the hill, up towards the corkscrew, yet more LMP2s trying to work their way through. There's almost contact there in the braking zone. You just see the margins are just so slim here in some of these moves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about Laguna Seca as well. We've saw a few times as well, especially up at the front of the LMP2 leaders, that there's been a few close calls when it comes to lapping GT cars in general, and just been a few close calls. And yeah, it's one of those kind of like you've just got to hope for the best sort of deals.
The gap still closing between these two. Thompson really giving it a good effort at this stage. Going through the Mario Andretti hairpin now. I'm keeping an eye on that gap between the LMP2 race leaders as well. But that doesn't seem to have come down as much as we were perhaps expecting things to be. So maybe Casey Kirwan has calmed things down a little bit and has taken a bit more of an analytical approach to this race.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I mean, he's maybe just playing the cautious approach at the moment, but as we still watch this battle for second place between Titus and Thompson coming through the kink, and Jack Thompson is getting closer, heading up to the corkscrew, but he can't really make a move in that corner unless you're brave or close enough. But under braking, it looks like Titus is just maintaining that gap at the moment, and heading down the hill. And yeah, the GTD cars, I'm probably expecting to be in around maybe just round about the just under 20-minute remaining mark.
Yeah, that's certainly what I'm expecting. Gets pretty close yet with a couple of GTLMs trying to fight. Well, there was actually contact between the two GTLMs there. I'm seeing a car spun around. That is Taj Edwards again. They had a problem earlier on in the race. Now it seems like contact has put them in the final corner gravel trap and trying to find a space to rejoin the track safely as well. Does so. Let's see what happened there, because I heard the sounds of that happening. Didn't quite see exactly what happened there between the two GTLM cars. Taj Edwards having a bit of front end damage from that earlier incident. Let's see what happened here. Down in towards the final corner. BMW looking down the inside and just tags the number 9 around.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a nightmare race for Taj Edwards as we look at the replay again, coming downhill, and excuse me. Yeah, maybe he's not really close enough, but I think just watching now, it looks like he's trying to. Yep, he just gets tagged from behind, and just Taj Edwards in that race was just the innocent victim.
Yeah, Taj also being, I believe, a lap down at that point as well, compared to the other GTLM car. Of course, blue flags are advisory here in iRacing, so you don't have to move heaven and earth to try and get out of the way once you show those blue flags, but you still got to be conscious of that faster car coming through. Seen the gap come down a little bit here for the overall race lead. Casper De Cor has had a couple of laps of being quite comfortably ahead, but now you can see the gap was within 3/10 again.
Yeah, there's not really been anything to separate these two guys for most of the race so far. The gap's been about what it is now, and Casper De Cor, sometimes he's pulling away, and other times Casey Kirwan just reels that gap back in, and it looks like Casey Kirwan's got a great run in the exit and final corner, but up ahead of them, they've got more GT traffic.
They have. This is typically where Casper De Cor has been weakest, having to deal with the traffic. Whether that's luck or not, I don't know for the moment. Got a pretty small sample size. But Casey Kirwan's doing all that he needs to do at the moment. He's just applying pressure as that second car in line and just waiting for any potential error, potential traffic to get in the way of Casper De Cor. As you can see, they're having to go down the inside of the Audi here, and Kirwan on the limit of braking into there as he climbs up the hill once again. They're just having to try and get lucky with the traffic, try and find them on the straight bits of road, not get trapped behind them into the corkscrew, for example. Casper de Cor, oh, that was so close. Casper de Cor really wanted that GTD Audi to get in the way of Casey Kirwan, but Kirwan made sure that that wasn't going to be the case.
Yeah, and the corkscrew is not the place that you want to catch GT traffic because Casper's a bit compromised there. Had to go around outside, and I believe it looks like we've got some GTD cars starting to make pit stops.
Yeah, that's Jack Thompson coming in for his scheduled pit stop service. It's around about the time that a lot of drivers will think about coming down in at this point. Fuel only, of course, if you're new to this series. No need to take tyres here for a 45-minute event. These tyres could even potentially double stint in an actual endurance race, so there's no point in taking the time lost to try and put some fresh rubber on. But GTLM race lead battle still around about a second, and Ivo Rappa hasn't had the speed on recent laps to be able to reel that gap in by any significant margin, but what he's doing is just hanging out about a second behind here, so maybe he's just leaving something in the tank for later on in the race, but for now Van der Waal looking to try and continue to manage that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just since he's gotten the lead, he's just managed to maintain that gap, and yeah, Ivo is not, like you say, he's not been able to do anything. As it looks like, sorry to go away from this battle, but in the LMP2 it looks like Casey Kirwan's dived into the pits.
Yeah, it looks like, and now we know as we see that number 1 car head on towards pit road. And now does this force the hand of Casper de Cor? Does he come down in immediately to try and cover off this from Casey Kirwan, or is he going to go another couple of laps on this stint? That's the question, and it's the perfect time, it looks like, for Casey Kirwan to come down in, because look at the traffic that Casper's having to deal with.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a bit surprised that Casper decided to go round again, because I thought he would, with the traffic here, he'll be getting held up and losing a little bit of time, but at the same, he's not getting held up too much as he manages to get by one of the GTI BMWs through the kink. But up ahead, he's got an LMP2 car and a GTD car in front of him, so he might lose a little bit of time, maybe a second or two. As he tries to get round on the exit of the quarter screen, he's being held up a little bit. So I think if I was Casper, get into the pits now and try and cover the trap position.
Yeah, I would as well, as he's just hemorrhaging time right now behind all these GTD cars, and he stays out. He continues to try and go with this. As I'm just having to look to see. Oh, car spun ahead. That is Adam Ixon that had a problem in front of Casper de Cor.
Yeah, that was a bit of a close moment as Casper tries to get up the inside of a GTLM Porsche into turn 1, but as we go to the replay now, and it looks like Adam just gets gets up sideways in the exit and gets tagged by a GTLM car.
Yeah. That's not one that you usually see, a GTLM running into the back of a LMP2 coming off the corner, but it's exactly what has happened there. So, bit of a weird incident, that one, but what is weird is Casper de Cor continuing to stay out that one extra lap. He has a little bit of clear track now, but I think the damage has already been done.
Yeah, I think Casper's just basically shot himself in the foot staying out, and just with lapping the cars as well, he's lost a little bit of time. But I think when it comes to his pit stop, I think Casey Kirwan's going to jump him and have a bit of a gap when Casper comes out.
Of course, Kirwan has had to deal with a couple of pieces of his own traffic, but I don't think they were as severe as what de Cor had to deal with. And you see Kirwan just catching the traffic in the right place on the mini straight just before the kink. And there's such a small margin between catching the traffic in the kink and catching the traffic but just before or just after the kink. It has to be in the perfect place.
Yeah, I would say through the kink you've got to catch it on the exit, just because just so you just to try and minimise the time loss being stuck behind a GT car. At least on the exit you're not being held up too much, but on the entry it can cost you big time. As third place in LMP2, Daniel Handover is in the pits.
Yep, so more LMP2 cars trickling their way down on towards pit lane. When does Casper de Cor come in though from the race lead? Again, he's getting stuck behind the Audi, and this is exactly what we were talking about. Wrong place, wrong time. Coming through the kink there, and he just has to lift way out. the LMP2s can carry so much more speed through that section than the GTDs or the GTLMs are able to, and now he's having to deal with a BMW M8 ahead of him, GTLM coming in through the final sector. So, I don't know, we'll see how this one works out. He does decide to head his way in towards the pit lane, gets that car slowed down for the hairpin on pit entry, and he is into the safety of the pit wall. But I'm just going to pull up the track map here to compare where Casper de Court is and where Casey Kirwan is. This is going to be the pivotal moment now, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just watching Casey Kirwan to see where he is, and he's just come around the final few corners. He's coming up to the final corner now, and this goes. I think Casey's got it. I think he's going to jump Casper, and Casper's leaving the box now, but I think it's just the damage has been done.
Yep, here we go. Casper de Court coming off of pit lane. Here comes Casey Kirwan. There's that orange car on pit lane. Casey Kirwan is your new race leader here on RaceSpot TV Friday prime time. Of course, Casper de Court has a slight shortcut here on the pit exit, cutting across the first couple of corners, but it is Casey Kirwan clearly ahead by 1.5 seconds as he has a moment behind the AMG Mercedes.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm a bit confused. I don't know why Casper didn't come in to the pits one lap after Casey. If he'd done that, he would have been able to maybe not maintain the lead, but maybe he wouldn't have lost as much time. It's just I'm a bit confused by that.
I'm too flashing the lights to try and notify that. Oh! The Audi's completely plowed Casey Kirwan into the gravel. Your effective race leader has been taken out by a damaged GTD machine. Casey Kirwan's going to be infuriated by that.
Well, Casey Kirwan, he just got screwed in the corkscrew, so yeah.
My words. I thought the GTD had let him go.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, looking at the replay now, he's heading up to the corkscrew, and it looks like the GTD car lets him go. And then the I'm not going to say that was intentional, but what was going on there?
David Krager, number 40 car. Let's take another look at it. Casey Kirwan, he's basically clear at this point. I can see that Krager got loose, offline there, trying to let that LMP2 car through, and he's just sort of lazily spun it into the path of Casey Kirwan, but that's kind of ruined what was a pretty awesome fight.
Casey Kirwan. I was just about to say, I thought Casey Kirwan was going off at the corkscrew again. He went to lap a GTD car and he got tagged again, but it wasn't as bad.
Let's take a look. Trials and tribulations of Casey Kirwan. Oh, look at that massive moment. Well done. My word, Casey Kirwan to save that car. That's God tier driving right there. Let's take an onboard for that. As you can see, there's a little bit of miscommunication this time around between the LMP2 and the Audi and Kirwan. Look at the wheel work. Oh, that could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I thought that was going to end up in disaster, and fair play to Casey. He managed to hold that well, and big credit to him. And Casper de Court has just been given a get out of jail card and up into the lead. So. Yeah, it's all kicking off in the closing stages.
It really is. The LMP2 battles continue, though, because we have the battle for P3 going on at the moment. That's Andrew Pike versus Daniel Handover. So these guys maybe look to have a little bit of a duel. It's going to be a substitute for the race lead battle that we were having, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've not really watched that much in the LMP2 class for the final step on the podium or in the mid-pack in general, but this battle for third place going on between Pike and Handover at the moment. And I've watched Daniel a few times. He's a pretty decent driver with this LMP2 car. He might not be quick, but he's a decent driver, and always finishes races. And at the moment, he's just not that far off a possible podium position.
And going to get held up there is Andrew Pike, coming through the first couple of corners. I do want to go to back to that instant with Casey Cohen though, because it is with. I know iRating isn't everything, Ryan. I can say that my road iRating is absolutely diabolical, but that car, that Audi that did take Casey Cohen basically out of the race lead. That was the number 40 car. That is the lowest iRating car in this entire split. So, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I'm not saying too much, but I'm the similar viewer, the same similar view as you. Oh, is it Pike's around?
He is around in the corkscrew. It seems like this race can. Oh, look at this rejoin. He's about got away with that, hasn't he?
He tagged the wall for good measure.
I mean, I'd rather he tagged the wall than come out into a string of traffic, but let's see exactly what has happened here. It looks like it's a self-spin all on his own from third place in LMP2. Let's just listen in. Oh, he just loses on the brakes. Rear locking, perhaps.
Yeah, it looks like it could have been a case of maybe just a little bit too much brake bias on the rear, or maybe just downshifting too quickly. And then he tries to get going again, tacks the wall, and yeah, I was watching him. He tried to get going when he was still in the wall, so it looks like he might have had difficulty trying to get reverse gear, or yeah, maybe just trying everything to get going. But yeah, handover was a lucky boy to avoid that.
Yeah, very lucky. Meanwhile, we've had a lot of gripes about GTD so far in this, but we haven't praised them enough. So Francesco Arruta, who's the current GTD race leader, has done a fantastic job in that class. He currently holds a 2.3 second advantage over Jack Thompson. Should be healthy enough to mean that he's safe coming towards the end here, but with how crazy this race has been already, I'm going to say nothing's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Francesco's pretty much just hopefully I'm not jinxing him, but he's had a trouble-free run so far, and he's got a decent gap behind him, so he can just maintain that gap and just not do anything too silly, as he's got a GTLM Corvette coming up to lap him, which will probably get him in the exit of the corkscrew and going downhill. But Francesco's pretty much he's not had anything to worry about, and he's just kept out of trouble so far.
Yeah, he really has, and that's fantastic to see, especially when we've had so much carnage in this race. Apparently the ILMS race that had been broadcasted by Radio on TV also was similarly chaotic as this one, so it seems like the trend continues here on this Friday evening here in Europe. But Arruta continuing on his way towards a GTD class win with a gap of 2 seconds. Having a look elsewhere to see if there are any other close battles. I think there's one in LMP2 that's between P5-6. This is Chris Roberts versus Josh Brain. And just over half a second between those two. So we might have a couple of places to look, a couple of battles to have in these remaining 6 minutes here, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And this battle between Roberts and Brain, like you say, has been pretty much going on for pretty after the pit stops. And Josh Brain, a name I recognise on iRacing as well. I've raced against him a few times in a Skip Barber League, and yeah, he's a decent driver, and he's doing a good job at the moment in P6. But he's not far away from P6 at the moment as Roberts goes up the inside of a GTLM Porsche, heading down into the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, able to extend the gap, put a piece of lap traffic between himself and his nearest competitor, as Josh Brain having to deal with this Porsche that's parked on his nose at the moment. Not exactly ideal, as he's still behind. Still behind. You just about get him on this little run down towards the left here. And there we go, he is clear. But the bigger problem here for Josh Brain is that he has Nick Thiston closing up on him pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick's been gaining on him quite a lot. And Chris has managed to pull away from Josh ever so slightly, and Nick, I think he's putting Josh under huge pressure, so I think Josh is focusing on what's behind him now, instead of focusing forward. But as they come into the final few minutes, it's just starting to slightly settle down. And Nick is a name that he's another name I recognise from the Gathering of Tweakers Endurance League that I think took place ages ago, and they used to be broadcast by Race Spot. So it's good to see Nick out here this evening having a run with this LMP2 car.
Of course, he was the developer of our old live timing as well, so we do like him here at Race Spot TV. But whether we like him or not, he still has a GTLM Porsche on the front of his nose, so he's going to have to deal with that for at least a couple of corners and lose yet more time that he can't afford to lose to Josh Brain in front of him. There's also this battle in GTDs that might have its finale at the very end of this race as well, between Corey Murphy and Cyril Koranjak. So that one will be disrupted by a GTLM Porsche getting in the thick of things towards the braking zone of the corkscrew. So a couple of places to look at here at the very end of the race. That Porsche pretty eager to try and find the line through on the Audi, but finding no success for the moment. Koranjak will give him the line and give the LMP2 the line as well, as that's always a sketchy moment where you have the, two cars trying to file through on a piece of lap traffic, because the car that's letting people go might expect one car and not two.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those things when someone's lapping you. It's one of those things I've had in the past. When a quicker class car laps you, and then you're worrying that someone else might try and lunge up the inside. So it's one of those things you've got to just focus on. And it looks like one of the GTLM cars is trying to get by as well. Let's say the number 9 car, which is Tad Edwards.
Corey Murphy still ahead in this battle, but you do mention Taj Edwards, who's currently the GTLM that's probably had the worst time of all of them at the moment. So an unfortunate result there, but you can see, look at how much traffic there is on the way in towards the kink here, and can get pretty sketchy. And speaking of sketchy, there's a spinner ahead of them. Can't quite spot who that one was.
Oh, Tisha's been hit.
Oh my God, there's more happenings in towards the corkscrew. Give me some car numbers, Ryan.
Yeah, Nick Thiessen, the number 6 car, and it was either one of the GTLM or GTD cars. I never got a chance to have a look, but Nick Thiessen was certainly one of the cars involved.
Let's take a look. Oh, you can see, yeah, major problems. Let's wind that back a little bit further. In fact, let's go on board with Thiessen. I did comment at the time, there seems to be a lot of traffic on the way up into the kink there, and Thiessen has it all ahead of him. There was a BMW, I believe, that had spun around at the very front. BMW or Mercedes, couldn't quite tell at the time, as it just stacked everyone up, and Nick Thiessen almost ran into the back of the Audi on the way in towards the corkscrew, and the Audi runs into the back of him. So Nick Thiessen avoided the back of the Audi, but the Audi can't avoid the back of Thiessen.
Yeah, that was just a bit of a concertina effect, and the corkscrew again, it strikes again, and unfortunately everyone just got caught up and had a bit of a bottleneck effect, and unfortunately Nick Thiessen was one of the unfortunate victims that got tagged from behind. And it's been pretty much the theme of this race so far, just LMP2 cars and GT cars, the GTD and GTLM cars getting caught up together.
Here's your overall race leader, dealing with a couple of bits of traffic through the kink here. I think we'll get one more lap to go. Next time, Casper de Court heads his way across the start-finish line. Slight lock-up there into the corkscrew, but that's not a major problem for him. He has a 10-second gap all the way back to Casey Kirwan. I gotta say, though, Kirwan, to be able to still hold on to that car, however damaged it may be after that incident, and still be in P2, that's got to be applauded.
Yeah, absolutely. I take my hat off to him. He done that save, not the first one, but the second one when he managed to hold it was just absolutely textbook perfect. And Casey Kirwan, he's a pretty talented boy, and as we look at him at the moment heading into the final corner, just coming across the line to start the final lap. Yeah, he's done pretty well, and I'm surprised he's not got too much damage.
Yeah, I was going to say, that car looks miraculously clean. I think it was just because it was a clean hit right into the side pod that might have caused a little bit of floor and side pod damage, but the rest of the car, the suspension, the front clip, all absolutely fine. Splitter fine. So Casey Cohen's really been able to get away with them there. Not just in his car control when trying to recover the slide, but also a little bit of luck in terms of the damage as well, so that he can maintain that second spot. But right now, we are on the final lap. White flag is out there. Casper de Court, once again. It seems like he's really struggling with the Porsche GTLMs here today. Every time I look at him, he seems to be stuck behind a GTLM Porsche, but it's not going to matter with an 11-second advantage over Casey Cohen after Casey Cohen got basically taken out by a GTD Audi. The last man standing is Casper de Court. He heads his way out of the final corner to win here in the LMP2 class in the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship, round number 7 at Laguna Seca. Casper de Court comes home P1. And now we wait for the rest of the runners to head their way across the line. It seems like the GTLM and the GTD race winners will come across the line pretty much simultaneously here. Here's Francisco Urata, who had a pretty clean run at the very front of the field, got away early and simply did not look back. And it is a textbook race for the driver of the number 4 Audi as he heads his way through the final corner to win in the GTD class here today. And not too far behind him will be Albert van der Waal in the BMW, excuse me, for Club Benelux, number 13 across the line to win in the GTLM class. Albert van der Waal comes out on top there as the rest of the runners now heading their way across the line, not spotting any very close battles up and down the field here. So it seems like everyone just taking this as a little bit of a processional lap. But what a crazy race, Ryan.
Yeah, that was just absolutely bonkers. There was mayhem everywhere. We had mayhem in the early stages of the race at the start, and then in the middle of the race. And Casey Cohen, it looked like he had the lead in the bag, but unfortunately nature decided differently into the corkscrew, and unfortunately Cohen got struck by a GTD car not once but twice into the corkscrew, and unfortunately that handed the win to Casper de Court. But nevertheless, Casper done a great job, held on to the lead after he took it, and managed to hold on for a well-deserved win.
Well, let's have a look then at your official race results for round number 7 of the IMSA Online Sports Car Championship here on RaceSpot TV Friday prime time. The fastest class, the LMP2s, looks like this at the end of 45 minutes of racing. Casper de Court wins by 10 seconds over a severely damaged, or perhaps not, Casey Cohen there in second place. Daniel Handover in P3. Julian Miert, who was a leader early on, falls down to P4. Chris Roberts in P5. Nick Thyssen, P6. Josh Brain in P7. Adam Isaacson in P8. Andrew Pike, P9. And Martin Ensman will round out the top 10 in LMP2. And then you have your final couple of runners in this class. Cheyenne Najam, Thibaut Wogney, Lucas Kreistek, and Michael Kotab will round out the LMP2 class here today. In GTLMs, it looks like this. Albert van der Waal wins by 7.7 seconds over Ivo Rappant. And Dominikas Jovaiza in P3 as that final podium spot. Shane Kaiko in P4, Till Northman P5, Daniel Stelili in P6, Octavio Pisco P7, Fidel Fernandez P8, and P9 goes to Yomantas Pruvost in P10. And then you have a look at the final runners in GTLM. Taj Edwards having a horrible day, Kevin Unk and Kevin Valens will be P12 and P13 respectively. Not a good day for the Kevins. In GTDs, Francisco Urata with a very clean race, wins by 3.1 seconds over Jack Thompson. Antonin Titus as the final podium finisher. Silvio Korenjak in P4, Thomas Tworden in P5, Julian Lutz in P6, Mads Peterson in P7, Corey Murphy P8, Marius Braun in P9, Joao Vanesca in P10. Then your final runners in the entire race. David Kraja having that controversial incident with Casey Cohen that took the LMP2 race leader out. Fabio Baracco in P12 and Georgie Nutley will round out the GTD field here today. So there we go. That's the rundown top to bottom of the entire field that took part in this one, Ryan. However chaotic it was, we did get some at least decent racing at points.
Yeah, we had excuse me, we had some great racing as well. We had that battle for the lead between Casey and Casper, and we had some good racing in GTLM and GTD as well. Some controversial moments from time to time, but apart from that, the racing was great, and I'm looking forward to next week at one of my favourite tracks, which is Montreal, which is, I think, will be another interesting race, but at a great track.
Yeah, it is a great track, but at least with the traffic that we've seen here today, I think it's going to be about 10 times worse when we head to Montreal. So you definitely want to tune in for that one, because that could be very meme-tastic. But with that is going to be all that we have time for here today on Racesport TV Friday Primetime. I've been Connery Maddock. That's been Ryan Walker. Join us same time, same place next week for more IMSA racing action. Goodbye.